Is there a test that will tell me whether or not a dog I'm considering adopting will make a good pet for me?
There really isn't. Since the 1990s, people in shelters have been trying to invent tests like this. They've particularly been trying to put together tests that might provoke a dog to growl or to snarl or to snap or even to bite. They do this by doing things like pushing at the dog's face with a fake hand on the end of a stick while he eats something yummy in a food bowl. The hope was that dogs that didn't respond to goading like this wouldn't respond either when they were in an adoptive home and someone did something that the dog found aggravating. But to the limited extent that it's possible to test the validity of a test like this, that's called a behavior evaluation, they really haven't turned out to predict very much.
How do you know that these behavior evaluations don't work?
Well, the only ones that have actually been followed up on with adopters are the ones on food guarding that I mentioned earlier, where the dog would be harassed with a fake hand while he was eating. The results here have not been encouraging at all. It was very common for a dog who tested positive, meaning that he actually expressed those warning behaviors, never to do anything similar once he was in a home. False negatives were less common, but they also occurred. In other words, it's entirely possible that behavior evaluations can't even answer the question of whether it's possible to push an individual dog far enough to get a violent response. The answer, by the way, is likely to always be yes, as it is with people, along with all other social creatures. Almost anybody can be pushed to a breaking point.
But what if you designed a good test and people used it consistently?
You can actually run statistical hypotheticals to answer this question. And again, it's no. This is because what you're looking for, warning and biting behavior that rises to a level that owners find too problematic to live with, the kind of level of problem where they surrender the dog. These behaviors occur too seldom among dogs to be picked up at a useful rate by a behavior test, by any kind of diagnostic test. The chance of an individual dog who tests positive actually becoming a problem is no better than flipping a coin. And this would be the result even if you could get the level of validity. In diagnostic testing terms, this is divided into factors called sensitivity and specificity. If you could get it up to the best standard that's been achieved with human behavioral prediction instruments, which, as you can imagine, have a lot more resources dedicated to trying to develop reliable ones.
But surely shelters and rescues need to do something to make sure that the dogs they're adopting out are safe, right?
The best answer to this fairly common statement is simply why. People have been forming friendships with dogs for many thousands of years, and they've been doing it in the most casual ways imaginable, often simply based on choosing the one that happens to follow them home in hopes of getting a snack. And only very rarely does anyone come to grief, especially in places like the US, where rabies contracted from dogs has effectively been eliminated. The last case from a domestic dog in the United States was in 1979. There's just not the slightest reason that in our current culture that dogs require any special vigilance regarding their potential danger, regardless of where the dog happened to be living before we met him, whether it was with a neighbor or in a shelter. The few dogs who are fearful enough of people to feel the need to defend themselves proactively are usually very obvious. The vast majority of dogs like people. They don't want to hurt us. That's who they are.